This Family Life News podcast is made possible by the support of listeners like you.
A veteran helping veterans. Welcome back to another edition of Hometown Heroes on Family Life. I'm Mark Webster, and our guest on this Veterans Day is Matt Souter, a U.S. Marine Corps veteran who now serves as a chaplain to other veterans in New York's Southern Tier. It's a personal thing for you, so let's start at the beginning there, your own military experience and how that impacted you and how you eventually wound up serving other vets that way.
I was going to college starting in 2003. Obviously that's not long after September 11th. So there was a lot of stuff happening in the world at that time. Some are old enough to recall all that.
My hand is raised.
Yeah. So while I was going to college, I didn't attend church very often. I was one of those folks who just sort of wandered away and did my own thing. I knew the importance of church and Christ, but I just wasn't really leaning into it very hard. And so when I started struggling at school because my priorities were out of whack, I didn't really have that resource to turn to the way I should have. I did, though, attend one particular Sunday service. This was 2004. The pastor preached related to Veterans Day, and he talked about how everyone in the Second World War sacrificed something. Even if you didn't go and fight, you were rationing rubber or cloth or certain foods, whatever the case may be. It was literally a port to starboard, everybody did something for the war effort kind of mentality. Mm-hmm. Well, here I was in 2004 attending college, and I had done nothing whatsoever to contribute to the war effort. Not a thing. And we had been in war since 2001, over 3 years worth by that point. That hit me. I said, I need to do something differently. What we should hope from any given sermon is that it gives us something to do. So I thought, all right, I'm not just going to live off of college loans and my parents' graces any longer. I need to make a contribution to society. And so the first thing that came to mind was I can certainly cover college if I do the military first. So I thought, all right, I will give back and then I will return to college. And so the following January, I enlisted in the Marines. I served in the Marines from 2005 through 2011.
So you know from the front lines, as it were, what it's like to serve. Maybe fast forward just a bit, how that colored your thinking and impacted you.
Yeah, I expected to go and to do the best that I could and not to return from it. That just wasn't really a part of my calculus to think, oh yeah, I'm going to go to war and everything's going to be great and I'm going to be a hero. No, I honestly didn't think my chances were good, but the Lord had better plans. He saw fit, first of all, that my job would be fixing computers and that I wouldn't actually see any combat. So I'm still very grateful for that. He had foresight there where I didn't. And because I was the one that made their email and printers work, the people in charge kept me very safe.
So even though you weren't subjected personally to any trauma, we'll say, during your service, you certainly got exposed to it through your association with some others.
Yeah, the stakes are higher in everything you do. If you and I go to work on Monday and the boss tells you to do something and you don't do it, well, there's probably going to be a conversation. There might be some questions asked, but at the end of the day, it happens and you move on. Mm-hmm. In a military setting, if you don't do what your superior tells you to do, number one, it's disobedience of an order, and there will be consequences for that. And even worse than the consequences is if you are in that life or death situation, it costs somebody their life for you to disobey those instructions, those orders. Mm-hmm. And so that was the problem that I faced. I was given something to do and I did the opposite. And I was in a lot of trouble, not just a little bit.
That's a pressure cooker that most of us don't ever face.
Right.
So you saw that. You get out of the service. Then how do you eventually wind up being a chaplain to vets?
Well, after I got back from Iraq, one of my squad leaders who had seen action, he came back and needed to talk to somebody about that. You can't carry a burden like that on your own, and those who try fail. So he pursued some mental health experts for that. They weren't really able to help him because they didn't have similar experiences to his, and he always felt like either he or they was an outsider in the conversation. Mm-hmm. Where he found relief was when he got together with other Marines and talked about his experiences with them, because they did have a reference point. He didn't have to stop every 5 minutes and explain what he meant by something that he said, because it's a culture where we're there with one another. And so I had these experiences long before I ever considered chaplaincy, where this guy would just sit down and talk about what he went through. And it helped him just to have somebody listen without all of the anxiety that some outsider might experience. And so it occurred to me, what if I could combine the experiences I had in the military with helping people who did need to deal with their trauma?
It certainly is a tremendous advantage just to have that base to help people with. So you had that kind of on your heart. How did it actually come to be then?
It took a number of years of schooling because you have to have a master's degree for this. And then I had to do a residency, almost like a doctor would have to do, to verify that I could actually do the job under pressure. So now I've been doing it for about 4 years. And I meet all sorts of guys who just had a bad childhood and don't have any other real problems, to guys who saw the worst that combat has to offer. And what I love to do for them is to sit down and to help them understand that I'm with you. I didn't necessarily have the experiences you had, but we're in a sense brothers, and they will talk their way in whatever direction they need to. And the best part is when I can then share what hope we have through Christ, through the gospel.
Give us a little pulse reading here from the chaplaincy front lines. And we hear a lot these days about the struggles of veterans of this country long after the Gulf War conflict, suicide rates and homelessness and so forth. Are these things getting worse, getting better? Is the support better? Where are we at?
In a lot of ways, it's more of the same. As caregivers, we have a lot of lessons learned, conversations, things that worked, things that didn't. And so we grow through that. I learn something from every interaction, whether it's what to do next time or what not to do, right? You can learn both directions there. As far as suicide rates, the suicide rate of veterans is the same as the civilian population. What's really different is that everybody coming out of the military knows how to kill someone. And so they're more often successful with their attempts. It's not that they're attempting more, it's that they succeed when they try it. That's going to remain for the foreseeable future. You can't send somebody to war and not teach them how to kill. That just doesn't work.
And the homelessness situation, how have you seen that evolve in recent times?
I don't have a lot of interaction with that particular demographic. I know that we have a lot of things in place. I hate to say something cliche, but it is a complicated issue. Some people, when they are placed in housing, find an excuse to break that lease and to get back out of it. Sometimes you do everything right and the person does not want to be helped. I recall to mind a fellow at the well who had been disabled for 38 years, and Christ asked him, hey, do you want to be made well? Not everybody does. Some people want to nurse that hurt and that injury for the foreseeable future. Other folks, they really do need help, and when they receive it, it changes their life.
I guess you have to be ready to be helped.
Yes.
There's an old cliche, no atheists in foxholes. People who have been through that trauma of military service at whatever level, do you find that makes them more receptive to the gospel?
Sometimes. Sometimes it helps. I know a lot of folks who are what we would consider unchurched. They don't attend. They haven't attended for decades, but they will look me right in the eye and say, Chaplain, I was there, stuff was happening, and I prayed and God answered me. There's a lot of military veterans, particularly among the Vietnam generation, who will never darken the doors of a church, but they have a relationship with God because they know He's there when they needed Him. It's very non-traditional. Their doctrines and their teachings are all wrong, but they do know that God is real and that He's there. Then you have other folks who, this is sort of the other side of the spectrum, they had a vibrant church life before they went to war. And what they saw there just sort of shattered them because they're seeing things that ought not to be. They shouldn't exist anywhere ever. And so they see that and they have trouble reconciling, how is this good, all-powerful, loving God true? And these things that I saw and experienced and sometimes did also true. They can't reconcile it. And so my role sometimes is to help them connect that seeming disconnect.
That brings to mind the story of C.S. Lewis, who served and saw all kinds of horrors in World War I and had a lot of trouble reconciling that at first until he eventually bought into the gospel.
Great example.
I'll make this the last question. A message to people, things that you wish they knew or did to help our area veterans.
Listen without deciding beforehand what you need to hear from them. I sit down with a lot of guys who haven't been in a church for sometimes 40 years. They don't sound like Bible-believing Christians. It's not possible for them to do so. But that doesn't mean that their faith isn't real. So if we can be patient with their inadequacies as far as language and belief, we can get them to the God that we worship.
That's Matt Souter, a Marine veteran who now serves as a chaplain to other veterans in New York's Southern Tier. Please join us again next time as we search for your home, your town, your hero. It's Hometown Heroes on Family Life.
Thank you for listening to this Family Life News podcast. If you've been encouraged by what you've heard, please share it with others and click the subscribe button to automatically receive future episodes. Family Life is a listener-supported ministry. Podcasts like this are made possible by your financial partnership. Find out more at familylife.org.